You know those Nazca lines everyone's heard about? Down in Peru?
The giant drawings in the desert?
Yeah, those. What if they're more than just some ancient art? What if it's like a sign pointing to something bigger, like maybe even aliens?
Well, that's the question this Miles paper brings up. It analyzes these humanoid bodies found right there in Nazca.
So is this like a credible thing, this Miles paper?
What makes it interesting is the author, Cliff Miles. He's a paleontologist, a real scientist, not just some UFO guy, you know? He's got a history of making actual discoveries. Makes you kind of take his claims seriously.
Okay, so let's get into it. What's the big claim?
The paper says these bodies, they're a whole new species of alien called Multonus dolani.
Well, hold on. Aliens. Like for real.
That's what he's saying.
So how does he back that up? What makes him so different?
Well, imagine like a being with a really long skull, 3 fingers on each hand, and the skin. More reptilian than human, but with fingernail.
Okay, that's pretty out there.
Correct.
But isn't there more to it than that?
Oh yeah, that's just the start. Their skeletons are totally different, fewer bones than us, and the whole structure's different.
That's wild. But how do we know it's not just some weird human thing?
He used X-rays, CT scans, all the good stuff, even did DNA analysis.
So he's going all in on the science angle.
And there's this one detail I found really fascinating. He found fossilized algae on the bodies, millions of years old.
Millions. But aren't the Nazca lines way younger than that?
Exactly. So it could mean these Multonus dolani, they were around way before those lines were drawn.
Okay, now my mind is officially blown.
And it gets even more interesting. The paper says there was advanced technology found with the bodies, even like a medical device. Think about that.
I mean, if you find a medical device with a skeleton that old, that kind of screams alien, right?
Right. Now, he doesn't go into a ton of detail about this device, but the fact it's even there, it tells you they were sophisticated, not just some primitive beings.
So then, are there maybe more signs of them out there? Could they have messed with human history in ways we haven't figured out?
That's the question, isn't it? Miles has this whole story in the paper about this Air Force guy, Jim Peniston. He claims he ran into a UFO in Rendelshem Forest.
Rendelshem Forest, that's a UFO hotspot, right?
We'll know it. And get this, Peniston says he got a binary code message from this UFO, like telepathically downloaded into his brain.
A binary code download. Okay, now that's just straight out of sci-fi.
I know, right? But here's the thing. People decoded the message, and it supposedly got geographic coordinates in it, pointing to important places around the world. Historic sites, monuments, you name it.
Okay, wait, you're saying this code is like a treasure map to places like, I don't know, the Nazca lines, maybe?
You got it. The Nazca lines are one of the locations listed. So now we've got these strange bodies, weird tech, and this code possibly linking them to the Nazca lines. It's like a giant puzzle.
And we're only just starting to put the pieces together. All right, so we've got these bodies.
Right.
But what about the details? You mentioned one was named Maria. Why is she important?
Think about those elongated skulls you see in old cultures, like the Paraca skulls, also from Peru. Maria's skull is kind of like that, but even weirder.
Weirder how?
Like all the joints in the skull are fused. No ears you can see, no hair. It's not just the shape, the whole structure's off. Then there's the spine. Different number of vertebrae than a human. Oh, and get this. Her hands and feet only have 3 digits each.
3 fingers and 3 toes. That's nuts. I mean, how would they even move? Was their world built differently or something?
That's what I was thinking. And Miles isn't just describing this. He's got illustrations, comparisons to human anatomy, even x-rays of Maria's hand. You can see the bone structure's totally unique.
The level of detail is incredible.
Right. And it gets more complex. He found 3 separate hands with Maria, thinks they might be from a different species entirely, says they could be related to her somehow, but needs more DNA tests to be sure.
Hold on. So now we've got multiple potential aliens all in the same spot. This is getting intense.
Right. Remember those fossilized algae I mentioned? The ones millions of years old? That same diatomaceous earth found on all the bodies, including Maria, it dates back about 18 million years.
18 million. So they've been here a long, long time.
It seems that way, and it makes you think, what else is out there just waiting to be found?
I can't even imagine. But let's be real, most scientists would probably call all this crazy talk.
Oh, absolutely. Alien bodies, ancient codes, it all sounds pretty wild.
So how do we balance that out? Like, how do we stay skeptical, but also open-minded?
Well, we gotta look at Miles's background, right? If we're gonna entertain these ideas, we need to know where he's coming from.
Fair enough. So what are his credentials? Is he legit?
He lists tons of his work in paleontology, decades of it. Publications in real journals, not just making stuff up.
So he's a serious scientist then.
Yeah, he's the real deal. He even talks about fossil discoveries he's made, new dinosaurs, all kinds of prehistoric stuff, even donated some to museums.
So his whole life has been about uncovering the past. That makes this alien stuff even more intriguing. How did he even get mixed up in this whole Nazca thing?
He lays it all out in the paper. It started with this team of researchers, led by a guy named Mario. They found the bodies in a cave right there in the Nazca region.
So Miles didn't actually find them himself?
No, but he became a key player in figuring out what they were. At first, they thought it was just a new kind of human, but the more they dug, the more they realized these were like nothing they'd ever seen.
It's like finding a door to another dimension.
Exactly. And they did carbon dating on Maria, remember her? The results put her at around 1771 years old, give or take a few decades, right around the time the Nazca culture was thriving.
So there's a potential link between these weird bodies and the people who made the Nazca lines. It's all starting to connect.
It is. And then they did DNA tests. And get this, the results. They didn't match any human or any living organism we know.
No way. That's pretty convincing evidence for a new species, right?
It's hard to argue with that. And it wasn't some shady lab doing the tests either. It was reputable places in Canada and the US.
So this wasn't some quick and dirty operation. This adds weight to the whole thing.
It does. But get this. Miles claims the Peruvian government got involved initially, but then shut the whole thing down.
Really? That's kind of suspicious. Why would they do that?
That's the million-dollar question. Miles doesn't really answer it, but it definitely raises some red flags.
Makes you wonder if there's something more going on.
It does. And speaking of things being hidden, there's this guy Miles talks about, Ben Rich. He used to run Lockheed's Skunk Works.
The Skunk Works, the super secret aircraft place.
Yep, that's the one. Miles talks about this interview where a MUFON board member claims that back in '76, Ben Rich said some pretty wild stuff during a lecture.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What'd he say?
Well, this interview claims Rich told the audience that we already have the means to travel among the stars, but that it would take an act of God to ever get it out to benefit humanity.
Well, hold on. The director of Skunk Works is saying we can travel to the stars. That's a bombshell. What else did he say?
Well, Miles lists a bunch of quotes from Ben Rich over the years. Things like, we now have the technology to take ET home, and there is an error in the equations, and we have figured it out, and now know how to travel to the stars.
Okay, those are some serious claims. It almost sounds like he's hinting at some kind of secret, super advanced technology.
Right, like we're already capable of interstellar travel, but it's being kept under wraps.
If that's true, why keep it a secret? What are the implications of that?
Those are the big questions. And Miles goes on to explore a controversial document called the Wilson Memo. It suggests that there might be secret government programs about UFOs and alien tech.
The Wilson Memo. I think I've heard of that. Refresh my memory.
Well, it supposedly comes from a meeting between this scientist and the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. The memo says this director claimed there were unacknowledged special access programs about UFOs, so secret even he couldn't access them.
Wait, programs so secret that the director of the DIA can't even get in? That's wild.
Right. And it gets crazier. The memo says this guy was threatened when he tried to learn more about these programs.
This is getting into conspiracy theory territory now.
It is a bit, right? Secret programs, government cover-ups. And Miles analyzes the Wilson Memo pretty in-depth, tries to figure out what it all means.
So we've got these weird bodies, a possible connection to the Nazca lines, talk of secret government stuff, and this respected scientist saying we might already have alien tech. That's a lot to unpack.
It is, and we're just getting started. The Miles paper doesn't stop there. He talks about different types of alien craft, time travel, government disinformation campaigns, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, I'm hooked. Where do we go from here?
Well, next time we'll dive into those topics, starting with Miles' analysis of all these alleged UFO photographs.
I can't wait. This is some seriously mind-blowing stuff.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Miles paper. So we were talking about different types of alien craft, remember? Miles spends a lot of time looking at photos of UFOs. A lot of photos.
I'm always kind of skeptical about UFO photos. Seems like there's a lot of fakes and blurry stuff out there. How does Miles deal with that?
He knows people are going to be skeptical. He even encourages readers to look at the images themselves, really analyze them, and think critically.
So he's not just saying, these are real, trust me.
Nope, not at all. He actually goes through some of the most famous UFO pictures, like the McMinnville photos from 1950
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
and the Lake Cote photo from Costa Rica in 71.
Those are some classics right there.
Yeah.
So he's going way back.
He looks at the stories behind the photos, talks about the people who took them, and how these photos, they've never been definitively debunked.
That's pretty interesting. Like, if they've been scrutinized that much and no one's proven they're fake.
Exactly. It gives them more credibility. But he doesn't just stick to the old stuff. He includes more recent photos, too. Lots of them from cell phones, discs, triangles, even that tic-tac shape that's been in the news lately.
The Tic Tac UFO, the one the Navy pilot saw.
The one and only. And remember those alleged government cover-ups we talked about? Miles even includes photos that supposedly show the TR-3B.
The TR-3B. That's like the super secret government aircraft, right? With the anti-gravity tech.
That's what they say. He's got photos that supposedly show this triangular craft all over the world.
It's wild to think there could be these secret things flying around and most people have no clue.
It is, right. And then there's a whole thing about C5 events.
CE5 events. What's that? Sounds like something out of Star Trek.
Haha, kinda. It stands for Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It's all about people trying to make contact with aliens using their minds.
So like trying to summon UFOs.
Pretty much. It's based on the work of this guy, Dr. Stephen Greer. He claims to have made contact tons of times. Miles even includes photos from these events, beams of light, weird orbs, supposed alien craft.
Okay, that's getting into some fringe territory. Is there any evidence to back that up?
It's controversial for sure. Some people call it pseudoscience, but Miles argues that it's a real area of study, deserves more attention.
It seems like Miles is open to exploring a lot of these UFO things, even the ones that are kind of out there.
He is, definitely. He's not afraid to challenge the way people think, and he's critical of the scientific community for not taking UFOs more seriously.
Yeah, that's a common complaint I hear from UFO folks.
He says we're past the point of just laughing it off. The evidence, he says, is too strong to ignore. He wants science to change how it looks at UFOs, to be more open-minded.
I can understand that perspective. The more we talk about this Miles paper, the more I start to wonder what we really know about, well, everything.
Right. It really makes you think. And speaking of things that make you think, there's this thing called the Ronald Reagan briefing.
Ronald Reagan briefing. That sounds important. What's that all about?
It's supposedly a transcript of this super secret briefing that President Reagan got back in '81, all about aliens. It covers the history of alien contact, different species, crashed spaceships, government cover-ups, all that good stuff.
Whoa, a secret alien briefing for the president? Is that even real?
Well, like a lot of UFO stuff, people debate if it's legit or not. But Miles says it matches up with a lot of other stuff he's found. Even points out specific details, like code names and stuff, that pop up in other UFO documents.
So let's say it IS real. What are some of the big things it says?
Well, it claims that the CIA director at the time, William Casey, gave the briefing. With all these advisors who were experts in UFO stuff, it starts with Roswell in '47.
Roswell. Gotta have Roswell.
Right, exactly. And it says that, yeah, it was a real alien crash and that the government took the bodies and covered it all up.
That's the Roswell story everyone knows. But it's still kind of creepy to think about it like this. A government document saying it really happened.
It is creepy. The briefing even talks about some kind of exchange program with aliens from Zeta Reticuli.
An exchange program? Like, we sent people to live with aliens and they sent some here.
That's what the document claims. Says these Zeta Reticuli aliens are peaceful, super advanced, and share all this tech and cultural knowledge with us.
Okay, now that's getting a little out there. Hard to believe that one.
Yeah, that's one of the more far-out claims. But it doesn't stop there. It talks about other aliens, too. And some of them are not so friendly.
Oh no, hostile aliens.
Yep. They call them HAVs in the briefing, short for hostile alien visitors. And guess what? They're supposedly the ones behind all those alien abduction stories.
Alien abductions, the classic UFO story.
Right. The document goes on about how the HAVs are studying human biology, our genetics, all that. For some reason, spooky.
It's creepy, but kind of fascinating, too. Like, we're getting a glimpse into this whole other world.
That's what's so cool about the UFO mystery. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about the universe, our place in it, everything.
It's exciting and terrifying all at once.
Exactly. And the Miles paper doesn't shy away from that scary side. He talks about the threat these hostile aliens might pose, even the chance of some kind of future conflict.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking alien invasion here, like Independence Day style?
Miles doesn't say we're headed for war, but he does include stories about the military encountering these hostile UFOs Even reports of weapons being fired and the UFOs fighting back with some crazy advanced tech.
Weapons being fired at UFOs, that's straight out of Hollywood.
No, there's even a case where a UFO supposedly stopped a nuclear missile launch. Like, they can mess with our most powerful weapons. That's scary.
Okay, I'm officially freaked out now.
I don't blame you. It's heavy stuff. But the Miles paper isn't all doom and gloom. Miles explores some really mind-bending ideas, too, like the nature of reality, time travel, even the idea that the universe might be a simulation.
A simulation, like we're all just living in a computer program.
It's an idea that's getting more popular these days. Even some scientists are considering it. Maybe the weird stuff we see UFOs do, disappearing instantly, impossible movements. Maybe it's all just glitches in the simulation.
Okay, that's a really trippy thought.
Yeah.
But I can kind of see how it would explain some things. Does Miles think that's what's going on? For real?
He doesn't say for sure. He presents it as a possibility, a way to think outside the box.
So, if AI is a simulation, who's running the program? And why?
The million-dollar question's right there. Miles doesn't claim to have all the answers, but he explores some interesting possibilities, like time travel. He even ties it back to that binary code message we talked about. The one Jim Peniston supposedly got.
The one with the coordinates.
Yep. Miles suggests that maybe it's not aliens sending the message, but future humans trying to contact us in the past.
So the future is trying to warn us about something, like a time loop. It's all very back to the future.
It is, and the big question is, what are they warning us about?
Yeah, if future humans are reaching out, it's got to be important. What does Miles think the danger is?
He doesn't get into specifics, but he talks about stuff like the environment collapsing, technology going too far, maybe even wars with other aliens, all the classic dystopian stuff.
That's pretty dark, but if that's where we're headed, what can we do about it?
Well, Miles does offer hope. He says it's not about building bigger weapons or fancier tech. It's about changing our consciousness, becoming more connected to each other, to the planet.
So basically a spiritual solution to a technological problem.
Exactly. He thinks our obsession with stuff, with competition, with being separate from nature, that's what's messing us up. He says we need compassion, cooperation, and a better understanding of the universe.
It's like he's saying we need a spiritual awakening to face whatever's coming.
That's a good way to put it. And Miles isn't shy about the spiritual side of UFOs. He even thinks it could be what pushes humanity to evolve, to become more aware.
So it's not just about spaceships and aliens, it's about, like, the evolution of consciousness.
Exactly. Recognizing that we're all connected to each other, to something much bigger than ourselves.
Oh, this is getting pretty deep. I'm starting to see why this Miles paper is so interesting. It's more than just UFO stories. It's about what it means to be human in a universe that's way more complex than we thought.
You got it. And in the last part of the paper, Miles brings it all together, gives us a call to action.
All right, lay it on me. What does he want us to do?
He wants us to question everything, to look for the truth, to be open to the mystery and wonder of the universe. He says the answers are inside us. We just got to be willing to look.
That's powerful stuff. Makes you want to go out and explore, discover new things.
It does. But before we go exploring too far, we should probably talk about how the scientific community has reacted to all this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
What do other scientists think about Miles and his ideas?
It's complicated. Miles's work is what some people call fringe science. It's outside of what most scientists accept.
So he's like a scientific rebel, going against the grain.
You could say that. And that can be tough, especially in science. Evidence and peer review, that's what matters.
Makes sense. But can't you be too skeptical? Like, dismiss something just because it sounds weird?
That's always a risk. That's why it's important to stay open-minded. Consider all the evidence, even if it's challenging. Some scientists are willing to take a closer look at what Miles is saying, even if they don't agree with everything. They know there are still things out there we can't explain. Maybe Miles is onto something.
It's like a scientific tug-of-war then. The skeptics on one side, the open-minded folks on the other.
That's a good way to put it, and this debate will probably keep going, especially as we learn more about UFOs and aliens.
It's exciting times, for sure. But where does Miles stand in all this? How does he deal with all the criticism?
He addresses it head-on in the paper. He knows he's facing pushback, but he says it's more important than ever to talk about the possibility of aliens. He thinks the evidence is piling up, and eventually, science will have to admit he's right.
Sounds like he's on a mission to change how we think about our place in the universe.
He is, and whether he's right or wrong, he's definitely gotten people talking. He's made us ask some tough questions.
He's like shaking things up in the science world.
Exactly, and who knows what other surprises are waiting for us as we keep exploring. What other secrets are out there?
That's a great question. And that brings us to the final part of the Miles paper. Next time, we'll see what conclusions Miles draws from all this. His thoughts on the UFO mystery, the nature of reality, time travel, and what the future holds for humanity in a universe full of aliens.
Stay tuned. Things are about to get even more mind-blowing.
All right, we're back, ready for more mind-blowing stuff. Last time, we were talking about how the universe might be way weirder than we think. So what does Miles have for us in the final part of the Miles paper?
Well, he gets a little more philosophical here. He moves away from UFO sightings and stuff and starts talking about, well, the nature of reality itself.
Okay, now we're getting into the deep stuff. What kind of things does he say?
Imagine a world where consciousness isn't just in our brains, but like everywhere, where everything's connected, and maybe even the universe is a simulation.
A simulation.
Yeah.
Like we're all in a computer program.
It's an idea some people are talking about, even some scientists, believe it or not. Think about it. Maybe the things we see UFOs doing, the disappearing acts, the impossible speeds. What if it's all just glitches in the program?
Whoa, that's trippy.
Ah.
But I guess it kind of makes sense. So does Miles think we're definitely living in a simulation?
He doesn't say for sure. It's more like he's presenting it as a possibility, a way to think outside the box about the universe.
Okay, I can dig that. But if it is simulation, who's running it? And what's the purpose?
Those are the big questions, right? Miles doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but he does explore some wild ideas, like time travel. He even ties it back to that binary code message we talked about, the one Jim Peniston got.
The one with the coordinates to all those places?
Yep. Miles says maybe it's not aliens sending the message, but humans from the future trying to contact us in the past.
So, like a warning from the future, that's heavy.
It is, and the big question is, what are they trying to warn us about?
Yeah, future humans are reaching out across time. It's got to be important. What does Miles think the danger is?
He doesn't get into specifics. He mentions things like environmental disasters, technology going out of control, maybe even wars with other aliens.
So basically all the bad stuff we see in sci-fi movies.
Pretty much. But he doesn't just leave us hanging with all that doom and gloom. He actually offers some solutions.
Oh, good. I'm starting to get worried. What does he suggest? More nukes? Bigger spaceships?
Nope, nothing like that. He says it's all about our consciousness. We need to evolve to become more connected to each other and to the planet.
So like a spiritual solution.
Exactly. He thinks we're too focused on material things, on competing with each other, on being separate from nature. He says we need compassion, cooperation, and a deeper understanding of the universe.
It's like he's saying we need to wake up spiritually to face whatever's coming.
That's a good way to put it. And Miles thinks the whole UFO phenomenon is part of that. Like it's pushing us to evolve, to become more aware.
That's a pretty profound thought. So how does he wrap up the whole Miles paper?
He ends with a call to action. He tells us to question everything, to search for the truth, to be open to the mysteries of the universe. He says the answers are inside us. We just got to find them.
That's inspiring stuff. Makes you want to go out and explore, figure things out. It's been an incredible journey, this whole deep dive. We've talked about new alien species, advanced technology, and even the nature of reality itself. It's mind-boggling.
It is. And, you know, even if we never find all the answers, even if we never meet aliens face to face, the journey itself is what matters, the questions we ask, things we discover along the way. That's what makes life interesting.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that's it for this deep dive. Huge thanks to you for walking us through all this incredible information. It's been a wild ride.
My pleasure. Always happy to dive deep into these mysteries.
And to all our listeners out there, keep those minds open, stay curious, and never stop exploring. Who knows what we might uncover next? This is The Deep Dive, signing off.
I would have been on top of the charts, but it's politics. You do some gimmick shit and post, you get a lot of clicks. Drop some real shit and they probably won't acknowledge it.